Keep in mind that only 50% of ads that work on TV also work on digital. So it's like a toss of coin. And whereas most of what we do in India is take a television ad and repurpose it for digital.
Isn't it good that just because something is viral or trending might not get picked up at all, because LLM is going to look at all the sources and figure out where are there better reviews, where there's more rating.
Because you think you're getting a good click through, or you think you're getting a good engagement rate, but I don't remember it. If you go to a consumer today, the amount of ad recall has dropped. People don't spend on print that much. But if you think of newspapers online, I mean, a lot of the sources from which LLMs pick up are these kind of sources. So the PR part, which was not, which had become less important, becomes more important now. I would have even sharper data in 2027, because this year is going to be a brutal correction.
Mother's best advice:
eat your food in time.
Alternate profession could have been
actor.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravee, conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hello, Soumya. Welcome. And we meet again in 2026.
Yeah, hello. And very, very happy to be back.
Awesome. Okay. So we have this very exciting brand building playbook for 2026. We are going to get into all the imperatives. First of all, when we say it's a flywheel world, we had settled on a funnel from a linear journey. And now suddenly the AI quietly has restructured everything. What is a flywheel world? What has really changed?
Sure. Like you said, I mean, AI has changed a lot. But before AI, the media fragmentation itself had changed things. So we are exposed to a lot of things all the time, continuously. And that is what has changed. So earlier, you sort of saw an ad, you went to buy a brand, you went to a kirana store, or you went to perhaps a modern trade, you picked it up from the shelf, you came home, used it, maybe bought it again if you liked it. Today, you are scrolling and something is happening, and you're getting exposed to continuous messaging from brands. You are watching a cricket match and getting interrupted. You are you are on a YouTube doing something completely different. You suddenly, a brand pops up, or you are just on a quick com or an e-commerce site and suddenly you discover a new brand. So the influence building is happening all the time, and therefore it is no longer linear or a funnel. It's perpetual exposure and perpetual influence. So you're optimizing for attention and optimizing for influence. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah. So from a full flywheel, now we're going to call it full flywheel integration, not full funnel integration.
Correct.
That has been the norm. So meaningful difference drives longevity for a brand. Before we get into the imperatives, because this is going to be important principle for everyone to understand before we get into the emotional core and how creativity is important, but it varies in terms of how it gets executed across platforms. So when we say thrivers, the brands who have sustained a meaningful difference as compared to survivors, could you take any examples? And what is it that these brands have done differently that they have sustained such a strong, meaningful difference?
So first is, I think, one of the things that India has helped brands do, because we have been having such strong organic growth. So, it's like a rising tide raises all boats. So which is why the frothiness of our stock markets have led to a lot of brands generally having a good run on valuation, even if they have not built the brand. And we know that. We know very high valuations. And we are seeing the impact of that right now over the last 3 or 4 months, which is very interesting from the time we did Brandsy. You can see it now. You can see the correction happening. You can see now people are looking at fundamentals. Is the brand strong enough? So the brands that have really survived, there are 49 brands that have survived over the last period, of the entire period when we have done Brandsy. And there are brands within those 12 or 13 that have thrived. By thrive, I mean you can survive by being somewhat either meaningful or different, or just generally because your category is having tailwinds. But thriving means as a brand you have done well. It's not just because of your category. So let me take an example of Tanishq, a very strong, solid brand, which has managed to, almost reinvent itself from just being jewel in a category which was just about buying gold into first fashion, then culture, deeply embedded into what Indian culture is, what Indian womanhood is, what our traditions are, what our rituals are. So I think that's the kind of journey, pure emotion, and built an experience around it as well.
Mm.
So it's a very good example of deeply culturally rooted brand.
So when we say relevance, apart from meaningful, we need both, and Tanishq has managed both. So emotional core, build an emotional core when you talk about as the number two imperative. There is also a data point that 85% of brands fail to build strong emotional relevance. Now, we talked about it last time also, emotion is what really activates those memory structures, and today attention and then memory is the biggest challenge in the flywheel that we are in. First of all, how is it that so few brands are able to have an emotional core? Is it a matter of strategy, Soumya? Is it a matter of execution?
No brand starts out saying, I will not connect emotionally. Obviously not. No marketer would believe it. I think it's a lot about the kind of fragmentation that we have. So there's a lot of new brands that have entered in. Many of them are D2C brands. They have, in a way, there's a lot of commoditization that has ended up happening. So what was easy earlier because I was available, because people used to see me, I'm a big brand, people see me, and I'm not going to name brands. So those brands have now lost that core that they had, that affinity they had. So they have sort of, and they have also vacated the space. The way I see it, because of the challenges of affordability, all brands want to become premium. All brands want to appeal to the same target audience. So, and that target audience is which is people like us, or the Gen Zs. They're inherently flirtatious. They're inherently less brand loyal. So they are anyway experimenting. And what brands have vacated is the middle India, which is huge, which actually seeks comfort, seeks familiarity, seeks reassurance. So that is a bit of, I would say, overall change in strategy that has happened. Now, within that, if I was to talk about brands that have maintained the emotional core with their target audience, so let's talk about something like Royal Enfield. I mean, it is definitely not about the product features. It is about freedom, exploration, adventure. It's a feeling, it's an emotion. So I think a lot of automotive brands have done a good job in recent times. Royal Enfield, again, it came back from where it was to where it is today. Pretty much sort of doing that, and Thar did it. Now you may or may not completely agree with what they stand for. I mean, as a woman, I have, but it is about freedom. It's about masculinity. There are other brands which were actually strong male brands which have diluted themselves by becoming universal. So the emotional core is also about how consistent I am. Where am I positioned in that map, and am I consistently reinforcing my positioning? And that's where brands go wrong. They try to be different, they try to be modern, they try to change with times, and while doing that, they lose the consistency that sort of set them apart. So it's not easy.
Also, somewhere mentioned that kind of clarity is very important. First
Yeah.
of all, to begin with, that this is what we're going to stand for and why. So, and also need scope has been talked about in that sense.
Right.
I was reading that. And whenever I've worked for Unilever brands, there's always been a need scope floating around, refer to this, refer
Correct.
to this. Very
Correct.
exciting because their colors and their, archetypes and everything,
Right.
it's like the source of who we are and how we define ourselves. So, a mid level brand manager looks at this playbook and says, oh my God, I need to figure out today do I have an emotional core? I need to audit. What should they look for? Because like you said, it's sometimes difficult because you are trying to be relevant in that space. There's a broad emotion that makes sense. And it's not very easy to nuance it. And then, there's so many platforms, etc. So how would they figure that I have a consistent, or even if consistent is a matter of execution, an emotional core?
I mean, do a need scope first. I mean, that itself will tell you. So, the thing we say in need scope, you should never be at the center. So, you should be somewhere in one of those territories. And as the brand's life progresses, sometimes brands do move, but try to move in a way which is consistent. So, I mean, so the most important thing for you to figure out is, are you in the center, or do you belong somewhere in that wheel? Are you that introversion, extroversion, and collective and individual? That's just one framework. It could be any framework, but fundamentally, I'm saying when I think of this brand X, does something come to my mind, and what comes to my mind should also come to your mind. I think that's the simple way to put it. And I can't think of any other way other than like that mid-market manager, mid-market brand manager doing some research.
Mm.
That's what I would say.
Yes. Okay. So now, they have an emotional core and they need to figure out how is creativity performing across algorithms. And I really like this, that on one hand, there is creativity, and on the other, there is attention dynamics, which is platform specific. And imagine that kind of a battlefield on the one side, and then there is creativity. So it's a huge challenge anyways. It's mentioned in the report that we have 1.3x more touch points. I mean, the important stat here is 14 touch points. Oh my God. So is this a nightmare? Is this an advantage?
If you leverage it well, it's an absolute advantage, because then every interaction builds on each other and you have that many opportunities to influence your consumer. But if you do not give consistent messaging across those touch points and you are fragmented, then it's an absolute nightmare. And many times we are fragmented because we have a digital marketing head, we have a marketing head, we have a retail somebody who's reading retail. So, I mean, somebody has to own the brand across every way in which the brand interacts with the consumer.
What is the brand building playbook saying about how to media plan across these platforms?
So one of the fundamental things that we have seen is synergy effects are huge, and they're only increasing over time. What that means is I need to have a consistent proposition and a consistent way of executing across platforms. And when I'm saying a consistent way of executing, no, the format has to be platform specific, because the mindset in which I am scrolling is different from the mindset in which I am passively watching OTT. So the mindsets are different. So I have to execute to the mindset, but my proposition cannot be different. And so I have to tell that story for that mindset, but the story has to remain the same. The way I look at it, there is a book, and when you convert that book into a movie, don't lose the plot, but talk in the language and the grammar of what a big screen experience is. So I think that conversion, by the way, even movie makers don't do a good job of it. You know how many books get rendered so badly. I think, and now we are talking about multiple platforms, so it is a challenge. But keep in mind that only 50% of ads that work on TV also work on digital. So it's like a toss of coin. And whereas most of what we do in India is take a television ad and repurpose it for digital. Just edit it out. It just doesn't work, because when I'm watching TV, I'm in a very different communal viewing, kind of mindset. I normally just end up watching because I cannot scroll through. I'm in a very different mindset when I'm on Insta. Connected TV will behave a lot more like TV. It behaves a lot less like digital in that sense. So you just have to keep all these dynamics in mind.
So, it's also mentioned that VTR is broken. View through this rate is not working. So what is really working? What should, now that I have made as a brand manager, ad suited to each platform, Instagram, YouTube, and now what is the metric that I should watch for?
You need some consumer metric. Most of the platforms have their own metric of what engagement is or what viewability is. Everybody has their own metric, and each of it operates in a silo. And that's the big challenge of digital. Unlike television, where at least you have a single sort of source of truth, at least in terms of the media inputs, in digital, you don't have any source of any truth. So you need some kind of a consumer metric, which ideally should be what you are tracking. And because if you are tracking the consumer mind, if you are tracking them through share of search, and you're tracking them through what we are calling the share of voice on LLMs, so you're effectively tracking me in every environment I am in and every activity that I do, then that is the sort of that needs its place on the dashboard a lot more than anything else.
Yeah.
Don't assume that your metrics will match that because you think you're getting a good click through, or you think you're getting a good engagement rate, but I don't remember it. If you go to a consumer today, the amount of ad recall has dropped. People do not remember advertising because they're being exposed to so much advertising. So this assumption that my input is actually the same as what the impact on my mind is just completely broken.
Completely. Also because of multiple screens and how you are just scrolling.
Absolutely.
So you also mentioned share of model. Are we calling that share of model?
Let's call it share. Let's call it how I appear in a generative AI engine as a brand.
So now that's very interesting because that's happening. Now people are making content, keeping that in mind because AI is just going to recommend, and all the so many steps are just going to be wiped out. Single click, no click, all that is happening.
Yeah.
Are we being able to track this?
Because I don't think people are understanding where AI picks it up from. So you need to be present in some of those credible sources, which earlier you may have forgotten. Print in that sense is, in general, people don't spend on print that much. But if you think of newspapers online, a lot of the sources from which LLMs pick up are these kind of sources. So the PR part, which had become less important, becomes more important now. But I don't think people are tracking it in a consistent manner. And I do feel that especially non-FMCG, because I don't think anybody in FMCG is really going to go and ask LLM, you tell me which
soap
noodles I want to eat or which soap. They may ask, right? Tell me a medicated soap of a certain type. If I have an allergy like this, what should I buy? So yeah, in some context they will. But for non-FMCG, a lot of it is already happening.
Yeah.
So you need to have a way of sort of tracking it and knowing what is happening within it.
So high involvement categories should really be careful.
Definitely.
What should they do? In terms of making sure that they get picked up.
First, just understand what we are calling that we can do an audit. So basically, what that means is you understand first how you appear. First, you understand what is your share of voice, right, within that LLM context. What is the prompt? What are the types of prompt, and what is your share within those prompts? And then you also try to understand the sort of the framing, right? What context, what is the conversation thread? Think of it like a mind map. And then we are also now able to actually give you the meaningful, different, and salient in an LLM context. We have created some kind of a surrogate. Yeah. So effectively, it just tells you that if this is your consumer metric from a offline or a tracking, a standard track, this is your LLM metric. How is that happening? It also tells you what are the sources from which the data is getting picked up. So it just integrates all of it, and then you can work on that. You can activate that. Maybe people are questioning a lot about scams. I'm just thinking from some category. Then I need to just be careful. I need to know what to do, how to. But today I don't think I'm doing all that. I'm still relying on just Google search. Google search is more like a curiosity thing. It measures curiosity, and to a very small extent, intent. I am thinking of something and I'm searching for it. The decision process, LLMs will take away a lot of it, because I will not only search, I will also ask it to recommend. I'll also then ask it to tell me why are you recommending. So we need to be genuinely tracking it much faster than we are. I mean, we are not doing anything today because there was no tool to do it. We now have a tool, so we are telling people do it.
So not just tracking, but then GEO, optimize it, like you said.
Yeah.
You can actually have ways of making sure that you get
So once you start tracking it or once you audit it, you will know what are the problems. You will know which are the prompts where I am dropping through. And then you can optimize it. Then you can sort of feed in. You know the feeders also. So I can ensure that I am putting the right kind of content from where the LLM is picking up. That's public information. Where they pick up is public information. But how I am appearing is what you need to have a better handle on.
Work on. Isn't it good that just because something is viral or trending might not get picked up at all, because LLM is going to look at all the sources and figure out what where are there better reviews, where there's more rating.
Absolutely, and it also in a way reads what kind of, in a way, because it understands if you're interacting with an LLM, and I'm a heavy user, it sort of gives you an idea of, like, she is somebody who wants more in-depth information. So it will not even go into those areas. It will go into even more, credible sources and come back with it. So it is even more difficult to influence. And I mean, the ones who have made it are also saying now they don't know what's happening inside it, right? I mean, I think Anthropic CEO said that. So it's a completely different beast in itself. It's still starting. I would say in India, we need to do a lot of things at the same time. We are straddling rural, which is where a lot of growth is coming from, to this LLM world. Now, I don't see this, rural Bihar, this lady who is going to buy, let's say, a shoe for her son. I don't see her coming to LLM and asking an LLM. I just don't see that happening in quite some time. So you still need to understand her, and that needs a different kind of method. But somebody like me is definitely going to an LLM to say, to check out what's new, what are the sustainable brands of shoes I can buy. I am going to go to the LLM. She's not going to go. So I have to be, I have to do both.
We are talking about Gen AI, and there's also a mention of how the performance parity is different and how AI is being used in a big way for animations and all the challenges that are there, the execution challenges. Would you like to talk about it? Or
yeah, I'll tell you what that means. Actually, what we have found, clients in India don't really do pre-testing. A lot of them don't do it, right? And one of the concerns they always have is that, if I do an animatic versus a finished film, there's a huge gap. Though actually our data shows you can still test and it will still render well enough. But now you can actually use Gen AI to create at the animatic stage, test it. And what we are finding is there's very little gap. So if in a test it fails, the finished film is also likely to behave in the same way. So you can actually use Gen AI to improve your quality of execution downstream by testing it upstream. And that is a genuinely, I would say, effective use of AI, not just efficient use of AI. Use AI
to improve. Less cost, faster, and
but better.
And you get a direction. Better direction, right?
Yeah. And now I think we can also, because we have something called Link AI, we also do that. We can also say which frame can go where. So it does an optimizer. So, and you remember last time we spoke, the point was AI should not only be used as an efficiency tool. And that's when we do that, we are actually we're destroying value.
Absolutely.
We need to unlock value and think of how we can use it to improve what we are doing and to add on to the capabilities we already have. I think that sort of thinking has to happen in everything we do. Today, I think the thinking is more about how I can use it to do something faster or to do the work that 4 people are doing today only through one agent. I don't think that is ever going to lead us to any kind of good place in future.
Yeah, my mantra is for clarity. As a strategist, I like AI for clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about winning upstream. Okay, so the invisible realm that has appeared all the priming and the predictions that, has been mentioned in the report. So, and I think there has to be a regulation discussion at some point in time, because before I go to AI, I mean, all the social commerce and, all the algorithms, all the micro cravings, they've already made up my mind without me knowing about it, that this is what I'm going to go for. So what does a marketing manager do in this case? How do they win upstream? Because another thing that has happened is that now the realization that let's not just focus too much on the last click. I was doing one, interview with Jeff Greenfield of US. He's just formed another model altogether, Soumya, in terms of how there has been too much and wrong emphasis on the last click.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, if you just focus there, within 2 weeks, you'll see that, the funnel has become even smaller.
Yeah.
So now in this case, how do you work around it? And I'm talking about smaller players, I'm not talking about people with huge budgets. How should they win this? How should they even look at this? And how is Kantar, giving a solution here?
So, I mean, see, priming is the same as building predisposition before the point of sale. So it's not a new thing. I mean, it's always been there, that continuously build consideration and predisposition so that when the thought strikes me, I think of buying you. The challenge with so much of media fragmentation, AI, algorithms is that there's a constant priming that is happening, that I'm constantly getting exposed, I'm constantly getting primed so that the odds of something, money buying something goes up. The problem is you need to balance it, because if you think just exposure doesn't mean priming. So one of the challenges in digital and the way you're spending money on digital is saturates very fast. So if you're going to shift all your budgets from TV to digital, let's say the same amount, because digital you will do a lot, because digital is cheaper, you end up doing a lot of frequency, you will end up irritating me completely. And so you may be thinking that I am sort of priming you. You are not. You are just pissing me off. So you need to prime at the moment when I am most receptive to it. So to do that, what your mid-brand marketing manager needs to understand, every platform has a certain characteristic. So first understand the characteristic of the platform, the mindset in which I am on the platform. Based on that, tailor your content and tailor the frequency with which you are reaching me. Don't overreach, which is what ends up happening. And reach me at the moment when I am most likely to be receptive to your message. So honestly, a marketing manager today needs to understand media characteristic, needs to understand messaging, of course, connected to that, and needs to understand what does the brand stand for in its core, what is the core story of the brand. So they need to be able to synthesize all the three. It's not as simple as saying let's just spend more, let's buy more GRPs, or let's have higher SOVs. That was a much easier world.
So at the center of it, again, it's the consumer and how easy, what is the buying behavior that is being shown.
And what is the watching behavior? Earlier, It was just the buying. It's now the watching behavior. What is the watching behavior? What is the buying behavior? Not even watching, seeking behavior. Google search seeking behavior. So what is the seeking behavior? What is the buying behavior? Am I impulse purchase mode? And broadly, one of the things is true. Top of funnel, you should never forget, because exactly your last click will, if you just focus there, you are definitely going to collapse very soon. You need to keep feeding the top of the funnel. And a lot of people make a mistake of forgetting the top of the funnel and just focusing on the last mile.
Now, you see, the thing is that awareness, interest, desire, I know it no more is that linear model, working, but there used to be a phase of desire. Like you said, now the desire, even before awareness, the desire has happened.
Hang on. The linear model does not work, but all the points you have said are still there. I still need to build awareness. I still need to build desire. I still need to create intent. It's just that it's possible that I am doing all of it at the same time. Yeah, this entire thing is collapsed. So, but all the three exist, and I need to know where I am on all the three. But the way to build all the three has changed. And it's not just, and the time for each of the three has also collapsed. So that's the change.
And how should an Indian brand, look at its association with a social commerce engine? Is it like a distribution decision? Is it like a buying decision? Is it like a media decision? Because all of it is crunched, and so many times you just go on the social commerce and you decide because of what's available, because of what they threw up at that point in time, because of the price comparison that you could do at that point in time. Social commerce is really changing the game. So how mid-level marketing manager, how should he think about it?
Retail media is big and very influential, because that is where I am making my decision. So it is important for your mid brand. I mean, actually, it's all of them are in the same boat, because you have to spend a lot today to buy that space, which it is, the price of that is consistently going up. So if I want a share of space in e-commerce, and also more than e-commerce, quick commerce,
Yeah.
the price, I mean, the cost is quite high. It's quite high. So my recommendation would be, build upstream, direct them, treat you, it's your job to make them behave like a channel. If you are a smart marketing manager, you have to make them behave like a channel. If you want them to behave like a media, then be prepared to pay the price that you would pay for a media that is a last mile media, that has all the information on that consumer, that actually controls exposure, that can do so much. So either leave yourself at their hands and let them, just help you and pay the price of it, or build predisposition and make it behave like a channel for you. You have to make up your mind on what you want them to do. If you mix it up, then you are in a difficult situation. I mean, it's a provocation I'm saying now. I normally don't say this, but yeah.
So, we're talking about now the meta spaces, right? There is a lot there. You mentioned the rural aspect and experience over product. People want an experience. We are an experience economy. Experience is very important. People are actually typing for what they want to experience as a thrill or a delight, and convenience, of course, stays high. What does that change for a brand in terms of how they build their brand, how they market?
We were always hungry for experiences. COVID had just done a bit of a reset, because we could not experience, and now we are back to wanting to experience. And it is always a challenge for FMCG brands, and that's one of the reasons why FMCG brands are no longer the most valuable brands the way they used to be, because for them to create experience, so for them it's more difficult, because for a bank or for an automotive brand, they are fundamentally auto, despite the fact it's a product, it's an experience, and you experience it every day, every moment. There's an identity you create through it. FMCG brands have to think how to make something which is fundamentally a product into an experience. I think some of them do a good job. My personal favorite, last time also I said, is Maggie. I mean, Maggie is a product, it's a brand, it's a nostalgia, it's an experience, it's an emotion. It's also an experience, right? When you are cooking it, when you are putting vegetables into it, that's experience. Forest Essential, self-care, Ayurveda, it's an experience. So there are ways in which you can create experience and ecosystem around the brand. And I think everybody knows that they need to, because what it gives you is moments to touch the consumer beyond just selling it to them.
Yeah, and then the memory, like you said. Yeah.
And the memories that you create of using the brand. Actually, every memory of using the brand is an experience of the brand. And brands that have been smart about exploiting it, they do. And a lot of the other kind of stuff. And Coke Studio is a way of creating a vibe around Coke. Mountain Dew does it. Everybody does it, right? In some form or other. Some categories do more of it, some do less of it. But I think increasingly all brands and categories will have to think, what is that beyond feature that I can give the consumer to know more about me? So that's definitely going to happen. But to come back to your second point on rural, I just wanted to close that point. I think rural, the biggest mistake we make is that we think कि rural urban का छोटा भाई है. So all that I'm doing rural is that my SKU strategy is different, right? I'm just having my smaller SKUs in rural. But by the way, sometimes they buy bigger ones for other reasons. Sometimes I am just, I just play a price game or something like that, right? I think rural aspiration today is no different from urban. It is, in fact, it's sort of converging on things like technology. It's because they're getting exposed to the same stuff. The Gen Z in rural and Gen Z in urban is not terribly different. There are differences in the sense which is good for many brands, which is rural today is entering into packaged, is entering into consumption. So they are more brand loyal. They are more willing to pay for brand. They are less likely to flirt if you can win them. But our energies today are all concentrated in the uppermost, the NCCS A1 urban metro, who have moved on to a completely different zone. They are like the global consuming class. So there is no point everyone going after them. There is this huge relatively affluent young people from rural who are coming in, and then they are rooted. They want to culturally belong. They want reassurance, familiarity. They will reward you if you can be their brand. So I really think there's that huge opportunity that's waiting to be unlocked. We don't make enough attempt to understand it, and we sort of need to.
This very interesting stats, genuinely surprising. 81% OTT consumption, 73% social media. So they need an original strategy, is the whole point. Do not treat them like a younger bhai. And also there is trends versus fads. Very difficult to actually identify.
It is. I'm not saying it is not. So we do it because we have something that we do on social media, social conversations, where we look at the volume of the conversations versus how long it lasts. So if you have a lot of volume but it goes away very fast, then it is a fad. But if you have volume that stays for some time, then it is sort of a trend. But to give you an example, health and wellness, which is where a lot of chatter happens around health and fitness. Now, health and fitness is definitely like a trend. My people want to become more healthy. They want to become more healthy in a sustainable way. That is also very clear. Fads are those extreme hacks that come, like intermittent fasting, or like, I don't know, there's so many of them that keep coming. No, proteins, for example, has still sort of stayed. Multivitamins has stayed, but there have been like all these diets that come, Paleolithic diet, this thing. So there are lots of these, which everybody picks up because there's a lot of social chatter around it, but then it disappears.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the difference. And the way to do it is to see whether the conversation continues. And that's the point you said about virality. Now, if you are deliberately creating a virality because I'm going to launch something, take advantage and get out of it, then it's okay. But if I'm trying to build a brand on virality, then I have a problem. Build a brand on a fad, then I have a problem. But if I want to leverage a fad, then it's okay. There's no problem. Grapes on New Year, it's fine. It's just a leveraging a moment, right?
Yeah.
But I won't create a grape brand around it, no, or some juice around it.
Yeah. What is the mistake most brands make? When we talked about brands, Soumya, we looked, the last year, what's really happened. Zomato did so well. There were some other brands also. You mentioned Tanishq also. What do you think we'll be talking about in 2027?
I think we will be talking about in 2027. I would have even sharper data in 2027 because this year is going to be a brutal correction. So only those brands which are super strong in the consumer's mind, because if a brand is strong in a consumer mind, the brand will show good earnings growth. And for once the investors are looking at are the fundamentals solid or not. For a long time, it was speculative. And as the speculation reduces, you will see real solid brands will survive and a lot of the froth and the fluff will die. And so I think I will be much more confident and happy about the data next year.
Sum it up. Okay. So brand building playbook, for 2026. Much required, lot of chaos is there. The chaos has been there, but now it's like disruptive. And everybody knows it's happening. What is really happening? How do you make a systemic change? People are not sure. What would you like to say to the marketing managers?
First is think meta. That's the starting point, which means what is the category that you're building your brand in? Don't define it very narrowly just because it makes you feel happy. Yeah, define it widely so that you have a good playground to sort of battle in. That's the first thing. Once you have that clear, what is that emotional core of your brand? What is that sharp positioning that you want to land in the consumer's mind? Once you have the emotion sorted, the function can also be an emotion, by the way. You have to figure it out. But then you can sort of sort that out. So emotional core would be the second most critical thing. How do I translate that emotional core into a very clear messaging? I'm saying messaging, I'm not saying execution. I'm saying that proposition. How do I translate it? And after that, when I'm rendering into execution, I need to be very clear on the attention characteristics of every platform, which means I should optimize for attention. This is the journey. In middle of this entire journey, I would say, in front of you at every time when you are thinking of anything you want to do in the market, what is that bullseye consumer TG you have in mind? Describe that person in your mind and then think, is this right or not right? I'm not even saying do research. Do research, that's a good idea to do. But even if you don't, at least be clear who that person is. And don't make that thing shift around. And be clear also how many brands are trying for that, vying for that one consumer, so that you are clear whether I can own that consumer or not. So I think that's what I would sort of advise the brand manager. It's going to be a very difficult year. But and therefore you'll have to make trade-offs. And so be super clear and be super consistent and super sharp.
Mother's best advice.
Eat your food in time.
Alternate profession could have been?
Actor.
What would you do on Mars for fun?
Mars, all alone, I will read a book.
As per your partner, your most often used phrase.
Why don't you pick up the dishes and put it in the sink?
A book you'd like to gift to all your friends.
Tale of Two Cities. I like that book a lot.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Make more mistakes.
What's something new happening in your life right now?
I wish there was something new. I terribly, terribly wish.
If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
Women's empowerment.
What's your greatest joy?
Solving a problem.
What's a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
Not all battles are worth fighting.
What is one missed opportunity you wish you could have a second chance at?
I really want to be an actor.
You are requested to share your profile as if it was a tweet.
I would say researcher by love, spirit in every which way, and a manager by accident. Obsessed with understanding human beings.
That's lovely.
So I would say Jagged with Jasravee is brilliant because I love talking to you, and you bring a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and it just automatically makes me want to respond. I think that is that's the skill that a host should have. So it is a lot of fun, and you build on it. You build on what I say. So it doesn't even feel like one is having an interview. It feels like one is having an intimate chat, in your in your drawing room. So I think that's the part. I would say it's super fun. So I'm sure it's super fun to watch as well, because it is so much fun to talk to.